Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, and the Gridiron Australia headquarters. Joining us as always is the ever-reliable, down in his basement in the unknown abyss, Mr. Tim Cardy, TC24 at Tim Cardy AGSAU, I nearly remembered. Smoother than the other day. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, Macca. How you going, brother?
Yeah, ticking along. School holidays, so if my internet does play up, that is why. It's because the kids are running around stealing it with their iPads and shit like that, so just be patient with me. We've also got our junior boy turned senior boy at Danny Webb AGSAU. I've forgotten him. I don't know why, but how are you, mate?
Good to be back. Shame to miss the last episode, but I watched it. It was an absolute ripper. If anyone hasn't seen it, go back and watch that with James. It was super insightful. Atlanta scout. Incredible interview. Well done, boys.
No, it was good, and I was going to mention it, but you got in there before me, so good job. But we do have a very important another Australian joining us all the way from Winnipeg. He's another ProKick graduate. He's a VFL player in the past. He's a PAC12 punter, and like I said, he's the current punter for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Mr. Jamieson Sheahan, how are you, mate?
Good, Macca. Thanks for having me on, boys. It's good to be here. I enjoyed the bit the other day, and it's been a bit of a wild journey, so I'm looking forward to diving into it with you.
No, mate, we appreciate you giving up your time, like you said, in the middle of the season now. So we will get into the season with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but we're going to take it right back to the start. And I know the boys always hate this, but I always like to start with a little bit of an icebreaker and get to know you a little bit more. So I just want to know 3 people that you would have at a dinner party, mate.
Wow, that's awesome. My first one would probably, I would love, can they be dead or alive?
They can be whoever you want them to be.
The first one would have to be Nelson Mandela. I've always looked up to him. Don't ask me why. I think he's an incredible advocate for people. So Nelson Mandela would probably be sitting there. LBJ, the king, LeBron. I'd probably have to have him sitting there. Big LeBron fan. We can get into the GOAT debate if we nearly have to, but LeBron would be there. And then the third one I'm going to leave up in the air, and I might come back to it later on. I might just let me stew on that a little bit more.
Nice. I'm Danny's probably the man to talk to about the GOAT. He's our basketball man, but I'm definitely an MJ man. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm MJ all the way.
I always find it hard to compare. It's two completely different leagues. When LeBron's playing and when MJ was playing, 2 completely different leagues. And I'm not saying it was easier for MJ by any means, but LeBron's he went up against some hard competitors, some tough super teams. So I'm up in the air.
Why LBJ over MJ?
Me, mate. I just think he's a physical beast. And I know Jordan could do a lot, but just LeBron's ability to pass, rebound, shoot, do kind of all 3 is pretty incredible. And just his longevity now, and it doesn't even look like he's slowing down really. So, obviously they couldn't go head to head, and the GOAT debate is a bit of a silly one, but 2 of the best to ever do it, the 2 best to ever do it, and it's pretty nice to get to at least watch one of them. So I missed MJ, but I get LeBron. So.
And it looks like we're going to have LeBron for a few more years the way he's going. So.
Yeah, he just put up a post today or yesterday about his son, potentially going in the mock draft at 17 or whatever it is next year. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Atlanta, here we come. As in, we're both going, which is huge. So it's going to be an incredible thing. Like you're saying with the longevity of his career, it's going to be so incredible if he can actually play with his son. Honestly, it's baffling.
Yeah. But we are a football podcast, so when we get our NBA podcast, we'll have that one, that debate. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to start off way back, as most Australians did. You started off your punting as a pretty handy footballer in the AFL. Not the AFL, but in Australian rules football. You started off down in Geelong Grammar and you progressed all the way to the VFL, having a flag with Strathfield Say, is that right, during the way?
Yep, bang on, yep.
So I did do my research, which I'm pretty happy about. But first of all, you were born in Bendigo. How did you end up down in Geelong?
Yeah, so country boy, Bendigo, grew up there playing footy, started, as soon as I could remember, as long as I can remember ago, and played local footy at the local primary school and then played at Strathfield, and ended up playing for like the under 15 and 16 Pios there, the Bendigo Pioneers, in like the TAC Cup type division, and was lucky enough to represent Victoria in the state champs back in under 15s, under 16s, actually captained the boys back for Victoria back in the day. And then we went on and won the 16 champs. But after the 15s national carnival, I got I think it was a letter actually, or it might have been an email from the head scholarship guy at Geelong Grammar, and he had offered me a full ride scholarship to actually play footy and cricket at Geelong Grammar. I was a bit of a handy cricketer too. Probably should have picked that looking back. I think I had a bit more chance to play in the pros in cricket, but here I am in Winnipeg all this time later. But and then so there it's an incredible school, Geelong Grammar, and got the opportunity to really improve my education as well. It's a pretty phenomenal school if you ever get the chance to look at it. But so I went to boarding school for 3 years, moved out of home at 14, and did 3 years of boarding down at Geelong, and then that's how I ended up playing at the Falcons in my under 18 years because I'd relocated and ended up strangely going back to Bendigo for my 19 super senior year type thing, my overage year, and then got the chance with the VFL. So went and played at the Bombers for a year and a bit, and there's a lot more to it than that, but that's the short version.
And for those who don't know, like Geelong Grammar, to get a free ride there is absolutely huge. It's definitely not the cheapest school to go to, especially if you're boarding for the whole way around. So that's just an incredible opportunity to begin with.
Yeah. It was something I couldn't pass up, to be honest. Like when I was sitting there with my parents and Jamieson Sheahan, the head of scholarships at Geelong Grammar, was at my living room table saying, we're going to give you a full ride scholarship, fully paid for, to a school that is about $70,000 a year. It was just a no-brainer, and I'm glad I did. It was an incredible opportunity, and I grew, and you grow up pretty quickly when you move out of home at 14 and become a boarding student. So learned some valuable lessons and some great people and friends I'm still in contact with today, and played good footy and cricket there, and we actually won a cricket premiership in my second year there, which was the highlight of my time. That was an incredible experience. So it's a very competitive competition, the APF. There's a lot of really good schools, Melbourne Grammar, Scotch, Xavier, all the big ones. So that was pretty awesome. And it was just a great education as well.
Yeah,
what kind of cricketer?
Factory.
I was lower. I was an all-rounder, lower order slog, just hacking to cow corner, and then also rolled the arm over, just a little medium pace, but was able to put a bit of tweak on the ball. So I was a bit of a handful on some tough wickets, just wrap them on the pad or something. And but I used to, it would be all or nothing. I'd make 100 off 50 rocks, or I'd make 0. So it was all up and down, but it was certainly good fun to watch, I think.
I reckon. Did you follow the NFL much growing up?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't, not in my early childhood. It wasn't really until I got to grammar, and then sort of my couple of years playing in the VFL and stuff, got into the fantasy football and started following all the offensive players. Wouldn't have a clue one of the defensive players were, but enjoyed the fantasy aspect. And, we loved the red zone over here when I was back in Australia, and it used to be on with ESPN. I don't know if it's on anymore, but when we lost that was terrible. So, but watched a little bit, and then really once I decided to join ProKick, I had to do a bit of research and really got into the college side of things, because I started pretty much with the NFL and really had no idea about the NCAA. So.
Yeah, when did punting sort of become part of the plan, and then when did you go and join up with ProKick? When did that sort of all start to take shape for you?
It was 2019. I just played the 2018 season with the VFL boys at Essendon. Had a pretty good year. Won best first year player. Was really looking forward to going back and playing again, and still had the dream of getting picked up in the rookie draft or something. and I know that, you know, they were keeping an eye on me. I was playing good footy in their twos, and, you know, there's a lot of mature age guys that get picked up now. And so it was the 2019 pre-season, and I don't think you'll mind me saying this, but Heath Hocking, one of the Essendon greats, actually dislocated my shoulder in a training drill in January. And it was going to leave me out for the year. And so decided that it wasn't worth it, you know, getting the surgery. I'd had surgeries before. I'd had my shoulder and my hip and stuff done. So I said, look, I'm not going to play this year. And then really randomly, Nathan Chapman from ProKick Australia gave me a call and said, mate, if you're not playing footy, why don't you come down and kick the pigskin and see if you like it down there. And as they say, the rest is history, and went down on a Sunday in late January and hit the ball pretty well. That was always the best part of my Aussie game. You know, playing footy was my kicking. I used to, you know, kick out from full back and stuff. And when he brought me down, he said, mate, you got a leg. Why don't you stick at it and we'll get you a scholarship. So.
And we know how tirelessly the boys work at ProKick to like try and find you the right place. But how do they find Cal being the right place for you?
It was it's right spot, right time. A lot of the time with ProKick too, you've got to always be ready for whatever pops up. And so you have to have good academics to get into Cal, right? They're not accepting. There's barriers to each school, and to get into Cal, which is UC Berkeley, which not everyone knows. Berkeley is one of the best public schools in the world, so really difficult to get into. And fortunately, because I went to Geelong Grammar and, you know, actually they made me study there, I actually, you know, had something between the ears. So that got me, gave me the opportunity because of my GPA and stuff to go to Cal. So it was the right fit academically, and obviously I had a leg good enough to play in the Power 5 at the PAC12 level. So, and Charlie Regal was the special teams coordinator at the time. He had an Aussie before me, Stephen Coots. So he'd sort of already, you know, he wasn't reinventing the wheel. He just sort of rang Chappie and Johnny and said, hey boys, I need another one. So, and I was that other one, and I was next up. So got the opportunity to go on an official visit in 2019, it must have been, to go and watch the game against USC at Cal Memorial Stadium, and the boys got absolutely pants, but I decided to commit anyway, and it was awesome. And then, January landed a few months later, started the journey.
And how did you find that journey? Like, how did you find the transition from going from Australia to the US?
Well, there was this thing called COVID which popped up, which didn't really help me much. So it was about 8 weeks into what I was considering normality. You know, we're in the grind of winter workouts, which I'm sure some of the boys have mentioned is brutal. You know, 6 a.m. sessions, just running into the ground. Different from a footy preseason running, more, you know, high velocity, short yardage stuff, but just so many of them, and all, you know, it was really tough. So I got about 6 weeks of that training and didn't even really pick up a football. And then the pandemic hit and they sent everyone home. But if you remember, the Australian borders got closed, so I was pretty homeless there for a minute. And I was just fortunate enough at the time that I'd met my now 3-year girlfriend, and she took me in like a lost puppy and looked after me during the pandemic. So had a place to stay, and then, well, you know, once we got back going later in that year, it came really quick, because when we got back, it was game time. So I sort of missed that 6 months that I would have had normally to acclimatise. So we got straight into 4. We only got 4 games that year in the Pac-12, but to say that was a learning experience is an understatement.
Going from being a boarder to shipping off would have helped, though. Like, you've already moved away from home for the last 3 or 4 years, so shipping over the other side of the world wasn't much drama. No, like, not as much as it would be for some. I definitely had, you know, I was thankful for that. That was 14 through, 18. I was at Grammar, and then I was living out of home from 18 till 22, which is when I moved over. So I'd sort of been out of home for a good long time. Probably good 6-7 years at that point. So it wasn't about like being out of home. It was just being so far away, which is always difficult. And then the pandemic made it nearly impossible to see anyone. So, but I was definitely prepared better than I would have been if I was going straight from Bendigo, I reckon. Yeah, for For sure. So, and you said watching the boys and they got pants. Did you kind of understand at that point that, and it kind of sucks being a punter, that if your team sucks, then as a punter, you're going to get more of a go? Like, I'm sure that didn't come into the decision, but did you think, well, actually, I might actually get a fair chance here?
Well, I remember watching and like we punted a lot during that game, and I was like, "Gee, I'm going to be busy." So it certainly, that wasn't the reason I picked Cal. If they had won that night, I think I still would have gone. But it was certainly good to watch and know that, to see how important it is on special teams, that you can actually make a real difference. And a lot of people, just sweep it under the rug or whatever, and it's just part of the game. But if you've got a good punter and a good kicker and a good snapper, like it's vitally important, and it can win you games, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think Danny can attest to the fact that a punter can win or lose you a game, especially when it becomes a big game. But you said you had a bit between the ears. What did you study, and did the actual study come into the decision?
So high school just did like the normal. I can't even remember what classes I took now. It's that long ago, but just did like year 12 stuff. English, PE, all that sort of stuff, and did really well there. And then I can't remember the ATAR or anything like that, or whatever the number is that they give. It's all coming back to me now. But and then at Grammar, when I got to Cal, my first degree was in a field called interdisciplinary studies, which is kind of like you can build your own degree. You add in different disciplines. So I did interdisciplinary studies undergraduate, which is my bachelor, and then I got a master's in education in my final year. So, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough with the timing of COVID and stuff to be able to get 2 degrees in my scholarship. So that was awesome.
Yeah, nice. And how did you find college life? I know you said for the first 6 months you were locked down, but trying to study and perform on the field in a game that you've literally just picked up, how did you find, allocating your times and things like that?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate being an older player, being an older guy, and I had been in the workforce for a few years. I was actually working at the head office of the AFL while I was playing in the VFL. So I think that I had to balance the VFL and the AFL job. So when I got to Cal and I had to balance studies and athletics plus any type of social stuff, I was definitely ahead of some of the freshmen who were like 17, moving out of home for the first time, just like trying to get a grip. And so, I was 22. I was the oldest guy on the team, and I was the freshest person there. So like it was easier for me than some, but balancing, there's so much time that goes into football, and then at a academic institution like UC Berkeley, like it's incredibly rigorous, and if you don't put in the time, you fail classes, and then if you fail classes, you're not actually eligible to play. So you've actually got to put in the time in the classroom as well. So I was definitely lucky in that aspect, and just tried to juggle it as best I could.
With the social side of things, being 22, can imagine you were pretty popular with the younger guys on the team?
No, not at all. They called me Dad a lot of the time.
I didn't hit you up to go get beers and stuff?
No, they definitely. I definitely got really close with a lot of guys. They did call me Dad, but like it was in good jest, and it's a great locker room environment at Cal, and there was definitely times where I was hanging out with guys 4 or 5 years younger than me, but most guys that get into UC Berkeley are pretty smart dudes. So it was a great experience, and I got a lot of lifelong mates out of it. And after a while, you kind of forget that you're a bit older than them all. So, but they definitely let me know about it when I first got there.
You would know what that's like, Carts, would you?
No idea. They wouldn't do it if they didn't love you, mate. So you're pretty consistent. Had a pretty consistent, successful time at Cal. Like, how did you find the coaching staff and that there? Like, did you feel like they helped nurture and grow you a bit more being an Aussie? And like, did you feel like you developed really well during your time there?
Yeah, that's a good question. definitely like in my first, it was hard with COVID, right? Because like we couldn't even see the coaches. So, and when we did, you know, we were masked up and socially distanced and stuff. So that first year was really tough. And it was, the thing with a specialist is a lot of time is just spent on your own, and you've got to go kind of get good at your own craft and figure out, you know, why you miss, why you made that mistake, how to fix it. So I was fortunate, you know, Charlie Rabel was a really good special teams coach. For me, he'd been, you know, doing special teams for, I think, 12 years now. He wasn't a punter or a kicker himself, but he'd been around long enough that he knew. So he certainly looked after me while he was there. And then, had some help along the way for sure. But a lot of it was, you know, we had a senior group in my last year, the long snapper, Dario Longhetto, snapper, Slater Zellers, and myself. They were 5th or 6th years, and I was in my 3rd, 4th season then. So, you know, we kind of looked after ourselves a little bit and sort of helped each other out technically and watching film and stuff. So it's a lonely life being a specialist, and you've got to get good at recognizing what you're doing well and how you can improve when you're not.
Yeah, for sure. You've said you've got a bit of a booming leg, big leg. Mac has done a bit of research and found the stats. I think it's 31 times. Sorry, you pinned the opposition inside their 20. How would you feel if Punting went the way of the kickoff and it's automatic fair catch back to the 25? Like, what's your thoughts on that potentially happening?
Yeah. No, like I think that would be awful. And it would definitely not look good on the average. So, no, I think like they're really worried about the concussions. That's the biggest thing that you can tell is they're really trying to eradicate the long running and then the big hits. So they're trying to obviously get rid of that. I think the game needs to, you know, keep the specialists involved as much as possible and keep special teams involved, because that's like an unknown phase of the game. Anything can kind of happen. It's pretty much chaos. Whereas like the offense and the defense is so scripted. Like every single possession is scripted, specifically for the offense, right? The defense is reacting, but for special teams, you know, anything can happen at any moment. The snapper puts one on the ground, you know, the punter's got to make something happen, or and even just like, you know, the different looks that might come at you, where the returner's running, you know, what types of kicks I can do off, you know, kicking right, kicking left, kicking a banana, snap. Like it's just such a random part of the game, but so important. And I would hate to see that happen, that rule come in. I think keep it as traditional as possible in that sense.
Absolutely. I'd love to see you snap a banana. That'd be great.
I actually hit a couple at my time at Cal. I actually hit a left footer. I'm right-footed, and I rolled out to my right, and there was a guy there, and against UCLA, and I, you know, sold him the candy, and then went back on the left and kicked the snap. So bit of Aussie style out there. It was good fun, but yeah, I might have a few bananas up the sleeve here at Winnipeg this year too.
Yeah, beautiful. We find the footage of that. We'll definitely chuck it up on our socials. So you got to try out at the Cal Pro Day, but were unsuccessful in the NFL draft. But how did it feel going number 8 in the CFL draft? Yeah,
it was a great opportunity, right? Like, it's professional football. Doesn't matter what level you're playing. I'm still getting paid to punt the ball around, so it's a pretty good life. And it's just a great opportunity. I was really lucky to land at Winnipeg. I was really happy I went to them at number 8. As you guys know, they've been a very successful team over the past. They've won 2 out of the last 3 Grey Cups. So, and, you know, we've pretty much brought everyone back from last year. So it's a really mature group, and it's a really successful group. So I'm lucky to fit into this program here, and I was pretty pumped when they picked me at 8. And the Pro Day was just a great experience in general. Like, to have 25-something NFL scouts standing out there while I was punting, like, that's a type of pressure that you'll never kind of experience. Even in game, it doesn't get like that, right? Like, it's a job interview with 25 different teams standing there. So that's I'll learn from that experience, and it was an incredibly nerve-wracking but intense moment. And you know, missed out on the draft and free agency, but this is the next step in my journey. And you know, you never know if it'll lead back to the league or not, but pretty lucky to land at Winnipeg.
And how have you found the weather in Winnipeg? I imagine it's much colder than California.
It's actually the middle of summer at the minute, so it is.
Oh.
It's really hot. It's 25, 30 degrees most days at the moment. So Winnipeg it's in the prairies, right? So it's flat land. There's not, as far as you can see, it's flat. There's no mountains, no nothing. So as you can imagine, it gets pretty windy here. So that's the thing that I'm dealing with at the moment. As a punter, wind is probably one of the more difficult things to deal with. You'd probably rather it rain, to be honest, than wind. But yeah, it's nice and warm at the moment, but it's going to get very, very cold. I think it gets like 30 degrees below in November. So looking forward to that.
Well, yeah, just when it does drop that low, like, does that affect your punting much? Like, and what effect will that have on it?
I can honestly say I've never kicked in 30 below, and I really hope I have that experience. But I did kick in like -10 up at Oregon State one day, and it essentially feels like you're kicking a brick. Like your foot is that cold and the ball is that hard. Because you think with a football, you want it to kind of forgive off the foot, like mold around the foot and then project off is the idea. Yeah. And when the ball is frozen solid, like it doesn't rebound off the foot. So I remember after that game, the top of my foot was like bruised and stuff, which never normally happens. So I can imagine it's cold. Yeah. I mean, I hope we're playing at that time of year because it means we're in the Grey Cup in mid-November. But I think that's just going to be one of those things where you just got to get in the moment and figure it out when it starts happening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Danny. Everyone knows that it's summer in Winnipeg at the moment, mate. You should be better with your research. But how has the season's only pretty fresh? How has the pre-season been and starting off this year? Because you've already been pretty lucky to play against a couple of Aussies, such as is it Adam Corsack and Bailey Flint already?
Yes. Yep. The training camp was long and difficult. You know, they brought in myself and three other punters. So we had a battle of 4 punters up here for all the training camp. And we were splitting reps up until the week before the game. So like I had a good camp. I was punting really well. I was hoping I'd be given the job, but you just never know what they want to do with the position. So, and they had a guy that's been their guy for the last 2 years who was back again. So, you know, you kind of feel like you're on the outer a little bit, but I had a great camp and, Coach O'Shea gave me the call on the Saturday after training camp, the week before the game, and said, mate, you're our guy. And we're excited to have you stick around. And it's been awesome the first few weeks, you know, as with any new league, new team, you know, just still getting comfortable and getting sorted and getting assimilated to the conditions that are up here. And I don't know if you guys know, but the field's wider than the NFL field.
Oh,
it's an extra, I don't know how wide, but it's probably at least 10 to 12 yards wider than an NFL field. And so, which is nice in a way for a punter because you got obviously more room to play with. So just adjusting to stuff like that has been really interesting. And we had a great, you know, home game win to start us off, and then that was against Bailey Flint, the Aussie, and then we went over to Adam Corsack's territory at Saskatchewan, which actually, fun fact, they're our biggest rival, and got the win there. And then had a tough loss last week at home to a pretty good team from Vancouver and the BC Lions. So looking to bounce back this week, going over to Montreal with another Aussie, Joe Zima. So that'll be 3 from 4. And yeah, looking forward to getting over there. I believe it's a very European-like city. I think there's a lot of French-speaking people. So looking forward to seeing Montreal.
Beautiful. What's a day in the life like in the CFL? Obviously, professional league. Is it full time, or do you have to have a job like you did in the VFL, or you're fully committed full time CFL?
Yeah, no, it's like professional football, so it's full time. We're in there, you know, 7:30, 8 a.m. every day until 3:30, 4 o'clock each day. So practice is in the morning, you know, 2-3 hours, but there's meetings, you know, you've got weights, you've got recovery. It's a full-time gig, and it's pretty awesome lifestyle, right? Like I'm getting to kick a football around and getting paid to do it. So there's definitely worse jobs I could have, and just really enjoying that. and knowing how, like, I'm just being grateful of, I'm actually getting paid just to play sports. It's pretty cool. So, but it's certainly long and it's, tiring work. Like, even for a specialist where we do a lot of sitting around, it's still, a full-time job. So, and I'm looking at it like that this is my full-time job and the main focus. So it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah.
And what is the future looking like for yourself? So what's the plan? What's the long-term plan? Are you you said you've got a new missus, well, newish, 3 years, and been over there the whole time. I'm assuming you guys are living up in Winnipeg together?
So she's back in California right now. She's finishing up some work and then she's going to come up in August, which will be nice, after the bye week. And I signed a 3-year deal up at Winnipeg here, 2 with an option year. So, there is a window which the CFL allows from after the Grey Cup until I think it's February for NFL teams to bring you in and work you out and try and sign you. So,
Cool.
For me, like, it's literally 1 week at a time, just trying to pump well each week. And, but I'm hoping to have a really good year and then hopefully be on the radar of some teams to bring me in for a couple of workouts, in the off season. And, regardless, I'm committed to Winnipeg, depending on what happens with the NFL. And, it's a great experience and I'm enjoying it so far. And, when the missus comes up, it'll be good too. We'll get a place and, it'll be a bit more, settled and homely because right now I'm in student housing, which isn't ideal.
I'm sure it's not. And then long term, do you reckon you'll settle back in Australia, like let's say post career?
Look, I hope my mother's not listening to this, but probably not. I don't. Yeah, sorry, Mum. She'll definitely listen to this.
She is a fan, so
Yeah, she email.
So, I don't know, like, to be honest, like, getting 2 degrees at Berkeley, like, I'm pretty set up to get a job, post-football career in the States. Like, those 2 degrees, really heavily weighted in the States from UC Berkeley. So, and obviously my girlfriend's from California, so we've pretty much got a life set up there with her family. And, like, ideally, I'll be playing football up here for a while, and if not, playing in the NFL. So, I think I'll be stateside or at least in North America for a good long time, I think. And, but looking forward to getting back down under and, came back last Christmas for a quick break, see the family and stuff. It had been a long time before that, a couple of years. So, and I'm sure at some point we'd like to spend more than, 6 weeks there, maybe come and live there for a year or 2, but, not in the near term.
Do the degrees you get in college in the States, do they transfer over to Australia? Probably, maybe a question that a lot of dudes looking at going over to the college system might be curious about.
I'm sure, like, it's depending on what you do, right? Like, if you want to be a lawyer or a psychologist or something, I'm sure you still have to sit some sort of exam back in Australia to be, considered accredited or whatever it is. But I think if you're getting a business degree or a humanities degree or, even like education, I don't think I'd be able to teach in Australia. I'm not sure, but I definitely know that, like, if I wanted to go and work in business or something, those degrees are definitely counted for sure. It just depends on the field, but I think so. My missus is studying psychology, right? So if we went back down under, she would probably have to get reaccredited. So whereas I could probably just go and get a job with my degree. So I think it just depends what you're studying.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, mate. That's pretty much the end of what we've got. I just want to shout out to myself for rocking up in the Cal gear, and you picked it pretty early. It is an Aaron Rodgers jersey. I'm going to say, is that the third person that you're going to have at the dinner table, or have you actually met the great man coming through Cal?
I haven't met the great man yet. I've heard he's a very unique individual. Let's chuck him at the table and see what happens with Nelson Mandela and LBJ. That'll be a hell of a dinner party.
And after Aaron Rodgers' latest interview or whatever he was doing in Utah, he's probably bringing some psilocybin with you as well. So that'll be a hell of a dinner.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check with WADA just to make sure I don't get dumped by going to that dinner. But it'll certainly be good to watch.
Speaking of WADA, have you had any testing or anything like that you've had to do?
I don't even know if I can tell you that, but I did back when I was playing college. It's random as got tested and passed with flying colours. Obviously, otherwise you guys would have heard about it. So, but we're on the hook here. Guys were getting even tested today, so it's random and they test you after practice, after games. So yeah, got to keep it as clean as possible.
Is it random, like when you, like we said before, you have a 65-yard bomb and they decide, hang on a minute, this guy's got a massive leg, we might randomly test him?
Randomly get some testing done.
Yeah, well, I thought that in Cal because I think I had my best punt game. And then the following week I got drug tested and I was like, there's something suspicious about going on there. But I think it's mostly random. And then they, obviously, if you've had an offence before, then they'll ping you pretty regularly, I think.
Yeah, for sure. No, we do appreciate your time, especially being in season. We have to shout out to Jimmy. Is it Danny?
Yeah,
for
Jimmy
getting
Ferry.
us on here?
Jimmy Ferry, a fellow colleague.
The great man and Essendon VFL legend.
Just
appreciate you getting us in touch, Jim. The big man.
Yeah, massive shout out, Jimmy Ferry, number 68, proud number 68 wearer.
Just an absolute prancer on the football field. He was an absolute gazelle out there. And he's one of those, what could have been without the injury. He was that good, Jimmy Ferry.
Oh, God, don't let his head get any bigger.
Yep,
you can pay me later, Jim. No worries, mate.
You can transfer it over. Just one final one from me, just as a little rounding off. But 65-yard bomb is pretty big. Are you more confident in hitting something like that, or 55 out having a shot on goal?
Like punting a 65-yarder in a game, or hitting a 55-yard drop punt?
Well, which feels better? Are you slotting a snag or putting someone back inside the 20?
What feels better? Dropping someone inside the 20 is pretty awesome. Especially if you get one to trickle out at the 1 or 2 yard line, like that immediate feeling running to the sideline where everyone's giving you a high five is pretty intense. I've never kicked a game winner though, so I can't really compare, but I'll take a pin inside the 5 or inside the 10.
Yeah, nice. Now we appreciate your time, mate, and we're definitely going to follow along because it sounds like, with the likes of Lou Headley just caving or making the way for Aussies, you and Adam and Bailey will definitely be knocking on the door of the NFL in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, I think Big Louie, I think he'll kick more Aussie style than we've probably seen in the league before. That's what Lou does really well. I was fortunate enough to train with him in the off season. He's a good friend of mine, Lou, and just stoked for him to get his opportunity. And I think we will be seeing more Aussie out of him. He does have a big spiral when he gets a hold of it. So hopefully, and I think the game is shifting. You look at Michael Dixon, you look at Sipper, you look at Cam Johnson. They're hitting a lot of drop punt balls, like a lot of Aussie style balls. You can't really roll out, which is an interesting thing in the NFL, just with, illegal men downfield. But I think it'll be great to have Big Louie in the league, and it's great to have someone like Adam up here as well. Obviously, a college football Hall of Famer probably one day as the Ray Guy winner. And it's great to battle against him. He's had a great start to the year too.
Yeah.
And do you reckon with Lou coming through, it might actually help? Because we've everyone that we've spoken to, like we've obviously spoken to a lot of college punters and stuff like that, all come from Australia, always find that they're always going to struggle going into the NFL draft because they do look at an Aussie punter as they kick in an Australian style. Do you think players like Lou going to the NFL is going to open up the doors? Yeah,
definitely. I think that was the biggest knock on me. That my agent heard from the guys was, Jam's got a great leg, and he's really accurate, but we've only really seen him kick the Aussie stuff because that's kind of all I did at Cal. Hit a few spirals here and there, but they just said, look, we haven't seen enough game film of you spiraling. And a lot of them said, look, go and play somewhere else, get some game film spiraling. So doing that up here at Winnipeg. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it is shifting slowly. I think the other boys have been doing it, like the guys I mentioned, but Louis does it even differently, even more different. He does, a big side winding drop punt. So he's a big horse of a man, and he's an eclectic dude, and he's just a great time to hang out with and have a few beers with too. So wishing him all the best this year and hoping he wins that job.
Yeah, for sure. Fingers crossed for him. Another one that maybe to help you get a gig. I saw you had a couple of tackles on the defense, but no passes. When are we going to get a bit of horseplay and then you just throwing one down the field?
I'll keep the arm warmed up, boys. I can't give you too much away, but the arm is ready, locked and loaded. But gee, it's not a nice look. I'm definitely better with my feet than I am with my arm. Even with the cricket background, I try and throw it like a cricket ball, and that's not how an NFL ball works, or a CFL ball. So I think I've got more chance tucking on the arm and making a run with it with my legs. So we'll see.
Yeah,
watch this space.
Watch this space, absolutely. Awesome, mate. We'll be watching this week when you head off to the European town, which I can't remember what you said it was, but we wish you all the very best going forward, mate. And we'll be getting behind you boys, and hopefully see you in the NFL in the not too distant future.
I appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for having me on, and go Bears. Thanks for rocking the Aaron Rodgers jersey, mate, and go Bombers. So appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, mate.